All right.
Hello, Matthew. Could you please give an introduction about yourself?
Hi. So yes, my name's Matthew. I am 31 years old. I'm from Sydney, Australia.
Mhm.
Parents are from descending from Europe, but I joined the real world. I think it was November 22 when I joined.
Mhm.
I was pretty dormant for about a year. Um, at the time, I still am working full time as in an accounting finance type role, and I was also playing semi-professional football at the time. So I guess that's why I never really I was pretty dormant for the first year, but when I quit playing football, I had a bit more time on my schedule, and this was, I suppose, in the back of my mind. I had been following Andrew Tate and came across the real world and explored the program, like the platform itself a little bit. And when I first joined, I kind of just dabbled a little bit in looking at, okay, what are the campuses and what are the ways to make money. And I started out in the business campus, um, mainly because my wife and I also had sort of started a little design and style business around the same time. And he was also doing business in a box, which was an interesting concept where he was starting a business from scratch and, um, building it up as we go. Um, and I can't, and then I kind of came to a point where I was juggling doing me and my wife's business and then trying to start this agency at the same time, or basically a one person agency. And I found myself being torn between the two, and I had a conversation with someone, and they said, well, you've got a business, why don't you focus on that? And so I doubled down on that, and since then, you know kind of went from making very small amounts of money, 1 or 2K a month. And at the moment, we've scaled up to making, on average, I'd say probably 5 to 6K a month.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like I've been learning a lot along the way. Actually, it's probably closer to 7K a month. Some
Mhm.
months higher than others, but yeah, that was, I suppose, my journey coming onto the real world, and a little bit about me.
Quite an introduction. I think we can jump straight into what would you say would you attribute most to that increase from 1 to 2K to 7K now? Was it the business mastery lessons and what about them, or even something else?
Yeah, so there was a lot of good lessons in the business mastery. Sort of from sales to marketing, even to just strategy and planning of a business. Um, and I think it was more the marketing and understanding, who you're speaking to, who's your target market, and trying to speak their language. Um, Also, like in a customer service sales lens as well. I mean, with our business, it's mostly online. And it's mostly to consumer, but we do also have some B2B, where we'll have other wedding stylists purchasing our products. And we sort of have like a main product that has been pretty popular. And so, on the back end, I've had to learn how to have conversation with girls, sort of with the image of our brand, and speaking their language. And I guess, yeah, I was sort of introduced to that whole concept of, you know, identifying your target market and your avatar. And it kind of led me to look into the copywriting campus as well, with Professor Andrew. And I've been spending a lot more time in the copywriting campus probably over the last 6 to 8 months. I really like how he steps out the whole process of understanding your market, and it has helped me, in the beginning, and I got a really good start from what I was taught in the business campus, and then um, I guess it was a bit. His approach is a little bit more technical in a sense. Um, Two different approaches, but I really liked it, and so I suppose I spend a lot more time there now in the copywriting campus and piggybacking of what I learned from Professor Arno in the business campus.
Cool. Uh, so I'll go back now to, you said you joined around November 22nd. What was the decision that led up to you joining? And then you ended up being busy, as you said, with accounting and football. So did you just forget that you were subscribed, or did you just think eventually I'll go back to it? Like, what was the thought process there?
Yeah, um, I guess I didn't forget, and at the time, if I look back at when I joined, he was promoting. It was like I think it was when it went from the Hustlers University, I guess, brand to switching over to being the real world. He was promoting the real world, and he was saying like he would put like a bit of a FOMO offer, and it's one of those things I suppose now when I look back on it, it's like you got me, and like I guess I wasn't like I had the money to spend, and I mean the value for money, if you ask me, is hands down more value than you'll get anywhere else. I've gone through university degree. I've done professional qualifications as well for my career, and I can say that I've probably got more value from $50 a month than I have in the thousands of dollars that you spend going to university. But I guess for that first year, it was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know why I didn't spend any time in it. It was just probably my time. I was time poor. I was working, going to training, getting home at like 10 p.m. at night. Um, and I hadn't really, sort of, because a lot of what you learn as well is about time management and setting yourself checklists. So um, probably wasn't doing that as well as I am now. And, maybe I could have found time back then, but, it was definitely a mindset shift when I did start, taking the real world a lot more seriously. So yeah, for that first year, it was mostly just because I was still, caught up in the life of work and football or semi-professional football life in Australia. If you know, I suppose. But uh, yeah, it's been a cool journey, I suppose. A little bit different to some of the other students coming through the real world, but my journey nonetheless.
Cool. Uh, since you mentioned the 10 p.m., that brings me on to another time question for you. So currently it's 5 a.m. for you. Why are you awake at 5 a.m. doing this interview? Like, you just messaged me a time. It's ideal time for me, but I'm like, why are you awake at 5 a.m.? What are you doing?
Well, I'm usually up around this time, or probably a little bit later, usually 6 a.m. But yeah, my days are pretty stacked. So if I have to squeeze in an extra hour, probably try and wake up an extra hour earlier. But yeah, I guess it's just looking at my calendar and looking at what time I do have, and where can I find the time.
Okay, so what does your average day look like then, if you were to break it down?
Yeah, so I guess my job is generally a 9 to 5. So I do try and wake up by 5:30 a.m., have a morning routine, spend a bit of time either um, working or exercising, or go to the gym or go for a run. I'll be going to the gym after this. Um, go to work, and then probably spend most of the night working. If there's things I can do during the day. Sometimes I will, but generally I try to segment my time in blocks throughout the day, and have a checklist of things that I need to do. Um, Starting from the beginning of the week, and then if things happen throughout the week, obviously you can adjust. But that's generally Monday to Friday, and then Saturday. Um, I guess at the moment, I'm a I'm a married man, so it's a little bit of family time, a little bit of work time. I try to get in as much work time as I can. But yeah, I guess if I had to put my priorities, my God and family comes first. And that's what one thing I love about the real world as well is, um, you know, um, they don't just prioritize business and making money. It's also okay. You've got other things in life as well that you value and that you need to take care of, that you need to protect. Um, yeah, it's one of the reasons why I also, I guess, have a bit of an affinity towards the style of Professor Andrew because, I guess me myself, a practicing Christian, and he also is, and he's pretty vocal about it. So I guess that's one of the things. But yeah, starting it from the beginning of the week, even before Monday. Okay, what have I got on this week? What time am I going to need? And I generally try and wake up at usually around the same time, between 5:30, and I'll be in bed by around 10, sometimes later. But it just depends on how the day goes, I suppose.
Fair enough. And you mentioned still doing your 9 to 5. Is that something you're planning on continuing to do, or do you want to eventually scale the business to where you won't have to do a 9 to 5?
Yeah, I guess when I first started, that was what I envisioned is if I could scale a business to the point where I can quit my 9 to 5, and have, my 9 to 5 spent on the business um, entirely. So still a bit of way to go for me to justify quitting my job, because I do have, a lot of uh, obligations that I need to keep up
Mhm.
with financially. So it hasn't quite reached there yet, but it's on a very good trajectory, especially this last year. Um, I think we've almost doubled more than doubled actually what we were last financial year. So yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good, and I'm very happy with how things are going.
Good. Okay. Very solid. And what are plans for future then? If we were to say just everything, personal or business, anything, but short term, medium term, long term, what would you say?
So we do have, I guess, a financial goal that we're targeting in the short term. So, want to get to probably, 10K USD a month, which would, I guess, be our financial target. I guess personal targets, I'm married, looking to start a family as well. Um, you know, had a few recent events as well that have been a little bit hectic and chaotic. My wife having to have like a major surgery. So that was one of those things that, even, a few of the boys in the campus rallied around and offered up their prayers for us. So another great thing about the real world is the community, and I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, just with the business itself to try and achieve that. We're just planning to upgrade our service offering. So at the moment, we're mostly just kind of like, I guess, an e-commerce store where we sell certain products. My wife's the designer. I sort of help with mostly the sales, marketing, a bit of operations as well. And we do bridal wear and some, I guess, wedding styling pieces. And what we're now looking into is getting into the styling of weddings. So just looking at some of the top players, what they're offering, and what we could do and what we could do better. So it seems like a very fruitful opportunity, and I guess once my wife's fully recovered from her surgery, we'll be looking at launching some marketing in that sense. And I think, yeah, hopefully it'll cascade through into doing more right doing more of the other things as well. So that's kind of our plan for this year, and beyond. Um, Kind of just focusing on one step at a time, I suppose. See how we go, and if we need to chop and change things, that's kind of my view at the moment.
Okay, fair. And I want to go back to towards the beginning. You said about needing to learn to speak their language for sales. So, how did you go about doing that, and what does that actually look like? And what advice would you give to people who need to do the same for their own niche, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So I guess one thing I've started to realize is, I mean, first of all, kind of like the demographic of who is the most likely person that are going to be buying a product or service. So for us, it was, you know, 25 to 35-year-old women,
Pretty
mostly from Sydney, like mostly Australian based. We do on occasion get some international, but I think in terms of their attitudes and um, their mindset. They're all pretty much in the same position. They're also about to get married. They're looking to plan their wedding. So, um, you know, they speak a lot differently to how, you know, a middle-aged man would speak. You're not going to speak to a middle-aged man and say things like, "Hi, lovely. How was your day?" You're going to be basically trying to speak their language, understand what position they're in, and get onto the same page as them, so that in order for them to feel like they can trust you, and so that they feel like you know whatever they're looking for, they're going to get. So that was, I guess, I suppose, one thing what I meant when you're trying to talk the other person's language in the target market. So if it was another niche, for example, you know, plumbers, plumbers, they're looking
Oi,
for
mate,
people
how
who
you doing?
go, huh?
Oi, mate, how you doing? Everything all right? Well, something like
Yeah,
that.
not bad, mate. Yeah, good, good. How's your
That's a
toilet?
plumber.
Need fixing, eh? So yeah, and that's one of the, pretty much across most of the campuses is a pretty common lesson. Identifying your target market and learning about who they are, what are their pain points, and how can you help build trust in the conversation with them.
Mhm. Yep, makes sense. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything. So I can ask a final question to wrap things up. With that being, for people who are unsure about joining the real world because they're thinking maybe for $50 it might be a scam, what advice would you have to them?
First of all, I'd say it's not a scam. Second of all, $50. Um, it's not a lot of money. I mean, $50 US works out to be about 75 AUD for me, but still not a lot of money. It's what, $3 or $4 a day, $5 a day. Anyway, a couple dollars a day each month. It's the most value for money you'll get in education that I've seen, and I've done, a lot of different courses over my the last 10 years from university to postgraduate qualifications. And you know I it's every lesson you're given an action to implement, and it's honestly the best way to learn. And there's so many different paths you can take. So the world is your oyster if you do join. But one thing I would, I guess, piece of advice, if you when you do join, not if you do join, when you do join, is just pick one path and stick to it. And head down, thumbs up, and you'll start to experience the rewards for sure.
Cool. All right. Very nice. And now, if people want to find out more about you or contact you, what could they do so?
Yeah, so the brand for our business is Kiara Aloisio. It's CIARAALOISIO or on Instagram at Kiara Aloisio.
So we'll add those to the description of the video. So anyone who's getting married soon, check that. I'm sure it'll be great. And
Sure
thank you
thing.
for coming on, Matthew, and sharing your story. Been great
Thank
speaking
you.
to you. Again, I was surprised that you were willing to do it at 5 a.m. So yeah, thank you for that. And I look forward to hearing more about your progress. If you want to do a follow up in future, just give me a message. We'll be glad to do so. And yeah, I wish you all the best.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.